I lived right on the ocean, and I had this brand new 2-bedroom amazing apartment, just literally built and created basically by my specs. Like, they asked what I liked, what I wanted, and I told them, and it was amazing, and they did it, and I paid $1,200 a month for it, and everyone else in the building was paying like $5. But what they did to mine was so amazing. I was like, oh, I'll take it. There's no question in the world. I love it, you know? And when everybody else came in it, they were like, wow, this is pretty sweet. It's amazing. And then all it did, though, was create a bit of a tension between the other tenants because they wondered why their place wasn't as nice. And then again, they also didn't want to pay the price that I was paying either, you know. And then when the guy moved out downstairs, they ended up renovating his apartment and making his similar to mine. Not quite as nice, but similar. And that rent went up higher than mine. And so slowly they started to see, okay, this is a bit of a gold mine. I can do this to these units. And I loved it. I was like, my place is the bomb. But I ended up moving because the guy downstairs was too loud. The new guy came in and was playing the stereo loud, and I could just do nothing but hear the bass, and it just drove me nuts. And I hate bad neighbors. I just hate bad neighbors. They drive me nuts. And so I ended up moving, and that apartment, I swear to God, they rented that apartment like the next day. Like I was out, and they were already the people were trying to move in, you know, like ready to go. They were like, "Oh, so when are you moving?" Like, "Oh, yeah, I'm doing it now." But damn, yeah, they had no problem renting it. But you know, so I've been a product of gentrification and as a bonus for myself. But for when I think about how it could happen to me now, because I have a very reasonable rent, and just thinking, wow, somebody could just come in and just say, yep, someone else is willing to pay blah blah blah, so yeah, you'll be going up $300. Again, I wouldn't like it. I could afford it, but I wouldn't like it, you know. But that guy, I just thought, how many people are experiencing that, like right now? Like they've been living in their unit for, 20 years, 30 years, and then all of a sudden, there's a Starbucks on the corner, and now all of a sudden their rent goes up because, someone was able to afford to knock down that old laundromat and make it into a Starbucks. And so because of Starbucks, my rent goes up. Like, that doesn't make sense at all. It just doesn't. But that's what's happening. And these people are being taken out of their homes and forced out of their homes because, these new bars and these Starbucks and these yoga studios are going up. And it's just disheartening. I was catching the bus today, and this really old guy was asking me. He just looked at me. It's the weirdest question ever. He's like, so how long have you been living in Portland? And I was like, well, about a year. And he was like, I've been here about a year too, but I've had a really tough time. And I was like, well, I haven't had the best, but it's getting there. And he begins to share his story, and it's been tough for him based on his stories. You can tell it's been tough. But part of him moving here was them basically gentrifying him out of LA. He couldn't afford it. And he's a senior. And so he wanted to stay on the West Coast, but he couldn't afford to stay in LA with his, whatever senior income he had. And so he was able to get accepted into a citizens, what do you call it? A senior citizens community here. And it was just kind of sad. It was like, we're all going to get old. Some of us are anyway. I may not, but some of us are. Some of us are going to get old. And, our rent is budgeted want. Like, we know how much we can afford. And then just because a Starbucks goes up, or an Einstein Bagel, or a Target City, then all of a sudden my rent is unaffordable. Because someone decided that my neighborhood was all of a sudden kind of a cool place to live. And people were afraid to go down there at first. And now it's like, oh, this is close to my work. And if all I have to do is just renovate these apartments and charge, $1,800 a month for a studio, it becomes desirable. So now all of a sudden I can make some money. And not thinking about the people who live there, who used to live there, like where they live, how they're going to live. It's kind of a sad thing. It's kind of sad. It makes me, because I totally see two sides of it. But I think, but then again, it's hard too, because you're like, they're not putting up affordable units. Like, all of the units that are going up in Portland are expensive. There's no affordable home housing going up. It's all brand new construction. And studios are starting at like $1,400, $1,500 a month. And this town doesn't have that kind of industry to generate that kind of income every single month. You're looking at Portland. The manufacturing isn't huge here. I don't know where the income. Most people are artists here. Most people are baristas, servers, lots of restaurants here, lots of servers here. So I'm just like, where does that money come from? Like, where does it come from? And so I think we're building these societies where people just throw a number out there. Let's just say $1,800 a month for a studio, whether it's worth it or not. And we're talking, there's a place here that is a townhome style. They're brand new lofts, and they are 223 square feet for $1,200. Now, the bathroom is shared, so all you get is it's like sort of a miniature kitchen and a bed. And at $1,200 a month to basically just say that you live in Portland. And I mean, that's all you get. Those are your bragging rights. It's like, oh, I pay $1,200 a month to live in Portland. Like, you're gonna go to basically a studio loft that has a bed. It literally has a bed in it already. Like, it's not your own bed. You don't get to bring a bed. It is the bed that they put in it, and it is a stove and a refrigerator, and I think there's like, I forgot what else was in there. It was something else in there, but it's not much. You don't get much, but it's $1,200 a month. And while some people are like, well, that's not bad in comparison to living in New York, but we're not talking New York. We're talking Portland. Where people stink. And even if it was in New York, let's just say $1,200 a month to live in a 200 square feet apartment. That's ridiculous. So you're not living. Like, today, it was the first time in a long time I literally broke out the skillets and everything and started cooking and made myself a meal, because I haven't been able to do that for a long time. And I thought, I need that as an adult. I need to be able to have the ability to cook a meal in a kitchen when I feel like it, with my utensils, and not have anybody breathing over me saying, what are you cooking, or afraid to that they're going to eat my food out of my refrigerator. Like shared living, commune living is horrible. I think as adults, we deserve that. That should be a standard right, is to have a space to call our own. All we do is work, and to work for a place to live, some food, some treats here and there. But it shouldn't be working to just have a bed and like a little kitchen area, a little nook, and that we can't even really afford. Like it just doesn't make sense to pay $1,200 for a box just to lay your head. Like, just to lay down and to think about it. And that's like to be safe. Just to be safe, you have to spend money, a lot of money, just to be safe. Just to put your head down at night knowing that someone's not going to burst in and stab you in your sleep or shoot you in your sleep, you know, because it costs to have the feeling of safety. And when you think about it, that just doesn't make sense that it costs to be safe. Like, it just all is so bizarre to me that this is the world that we live in. This is where we live. This is where you're, wherever you are, you're listening to this podcast and you're going, you know, I live in a safe place. I live in a decent place. Yeah, but you're paying for it. You're paying a high price for it. Because there's some people who can't afford to live safe. Like in the Oregon area, the hood is Gresham. And people are killed and shot there. And rent is cheap. You can live in Gresham for $650 a month. Buy a 1-bedroom apartment and be fine. But it's dangerous to live there. But eventually, the way gentrification is going, it'll be great. 10 years, everybody will want to live in Gresham because Portland will be too expensive to live. People start moving out of the big cities, and then they start moving into the affordable cities. Gresham will be probably number 1, number 2 on the list of the places that people want to live because it's affordable. So they'll move all those poor ass people out. And those people are the people who used to live in Portland proper, in the city limits, where they used to live downtown because they could afford it. And then they got pushed out. And I guarantee you they'll be pushed even further out. It's just bizarre. Because you wonder where it ends. When does it stop? Where does the safety, you know, of, okay, I got this, you know? Like, I guess you could say, well, you can buy your house. And you buy your house and then everything is fine. Well, see, that's good, but not everybody has the ability to own. Owning is a privilege. It really is a privilege. I could have owned several things, and I guess I had the desire to move around. That was just what I wanted to do up until this very moment. You know? But, you know, now it's too late for me to own something. I'm too old. Way too old. And I should have been planting those seeds years ago, and I just didn't do it. So those of us who are renters have to wonder how soon or if we will be part of the big displacement where we love our homes that we've made in our rental communities, and then someone will build a Starbucks, and then all of a sudden we have to be forced out to move because we are no longer the desirables. We're the ones who are preventing progress in these areas. It's just nuts. It's really nuts. And I'm part of the problem here in Portland because people are so anti, you know, transplants right now. They're just hating. They hate people from other cities coming here and prospering and just taking their jobs and all of it. It drives them crazy. And I kind of get it. Secretly, I kind of get it. Because they wanted to preserve it and keep it theirs.